1 hour like this.
Yeah.
For 1 hour. I'll tell you what. Take this here on your lap. And then, you're holding it like
Yeah.
No, just turn it around because it's gonna go on. Just keep it like this.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Selma, good morning. Bon dia, alegria. Bon dia, alegria. Thank you for the invitation to Antonia and to Metin. And it's a great pleasure to be back in Viseu. It's a great pleasure to be home in Portugal all the time. So I've got jokes for Antonia. So she asked me, would you like to come? And hey, those of you, so I can say whatever because she's not here. Those of you who know Antonia, you know that you cannot say no to her. Right? So she said, can you come along and do a presentation? We'll do a nice networking thing and we're going to do a whole range of things. And I said, yes. Now, last Saturday I was looking and okay, so what am I doing there? And I just saw the title and I kind of panicked because if you ask me to talk about tourism and technology, I can do it on my sleep. I don't need slides or whatever. Talking about researching and publishing, I haven't really done any other presentation. So this is the world's ever first. I was talking about you, Antonia, saying that you asked me to do, she's not listening. On Saturday I panicked and I said, oh my God, I need a presentation for 1 hour on research and publications. I don't have any of this stuff, what do I do? Then I remember that my good friend Fevzi Okumus has done a fantastic presentation on this. So I sent him a message saying, you know what, I need to go to Portugal and do a presentation. I don't really have the time to do it. Can you send me yours so I can present on behalf of both of us? Fevzi was very kind and he said yes. So he hasn't seen what I've actually done with his presentation. But the first bit is his, the rest is mine. So I spent Saturday, Sunday, Monday kind of doing all kind of things. But at least I felt a little bit more comfortable that I had Fevzi's presentation, which is actually very good. And we can go through. So this is my co-author, partner in crime, this one, Fevzi. And this is a picture I took with him at Gatwick Airport at 6 o'clock in the morning, as soon as he came back from Florida to one of my conferences. So what will, now, and this is also taking into consideration stuff that we've done with various people. So this is the coffee panel that we did in Australia 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, where we are talking about journals. And this is my Chinese brother, Rob Law. This is Sarah, Mariana, and Hayen is not sleeping. Hayen is not sleeping. He was thinking very deeply of what we're talking about. And this is a group of what they call the heavyweight professors, with Bruce and Bob McCarthy. And he is trying to be there, but he has got to spend some time in restaurants. He can actually join us. But Bruce and Bob have done fantastic things on that, and you'll see some of the information in there. So Fevzi is editing the International Journal of Contemporary Hospitality Management. He's done a fantastic job bringing it to the top tier in hospitality. And there are a lot of statistics. He's doing 12 issues with 144 articles per year. So he's publishing quite a lot. Normally he's got a turnaround time 6 to 8 weeks. Acceptance rate is about 10%. You can see impact factors. And the impact factors when they've gone dramatically up during those years. I'm doing tourism review. So I started with tourism review in 2016, 2017 really, and we've turned the journal around. So when I took it over, it was published in 21 papers. We went to 29 in 2017, 36 in 2018, 55 in 2019. We've just been made SSCI, which means that we have an impact factor this summer. And we've got a current acceptance rate of about 14%, and we're very proud of turning around manuscripts very quickly, or desk rejecting extremely quickly. So we give the opportunity to authors to go back and do things. So, I'll talk about three things, right? I know what I'm going to talk about. Do brilliant research. This is primarily stuff that Fevzi has produced. And this is when I kind of felt a little bit more comfortable that I can do it. Get published and get noticed. I like to be very focused on what I do. And you'll see some of this information may not be very comfortable with you, for you, but actually, hopefully, it will be very helpful to you. So, doing brilliant research in tourism and hospitality, why do we do research? Why do we do research? Why do you do research? Antonio, why do you do research?
Because I like.
Metin, why do you do research?
Just for fun.
For fun. Catherine, why do you do research?
There are some answers I need.
You need some answers. Jafar, do you do research?
I have many questions, yes.
Yes, you have questions. Bill?
Fine.
Levin?
Exploring, promotion,
Exploring.
impact.
Okay. People do research because they like to get a promotion or they like to have a job. If they don't do research, there are universities kicking them out. Income and benefits, and especially some universities are paying you to do research. Ego, I like to say things I like to do. Curiosity, hobby, this is my hobby, I know some of you have their hobbies. Recognition from the community, so we understand what's happening. We create new knowledge, we stimulate and suggest future research, we offer solutions and we problem solve. We help industry partners, and especially if we're doing things that have got impact, and we help people to understand what's happening in the marketplace and how they predict, how they prepare for the future. We recommend best practices, we enhance the content of academic programs, and we prepare the future managers and the leaders, our students. They're reading this stuff and they're preparing better for the future. What my friends think I do, what my mom thinks I do, what society thinks I do, what my boss thinks I do, what I think I do, and what I actually do. That's for some people. I do all of these things in about 30 seconds and I start again, and it's crazy. Now, there are different kinds of researchers. All of us are doing it in a very different way. They're storytellers, they're profilers, they're innovators, they're copycats. And they're all doing research in a very different way. And you really need to understand where you are and how you can actually maximize your output. The evolution of academia is unless you publish, you don't exist. And I'm afraid that's a reality that we find everywhere. So first we said publish, then publish or perish, publish in high-impact journals or perish, publish frequently in high-impact journals, and maybe you will not perish. I'm an old guy, I started about 30 years ago. It was nice to publish. Now if you don't publish, you don't exist, right? When you look into what people were doing in the past, they were doing some conceptual and review articles. They're doing mostly replication studies. I did that, and someone else did that, and someone else did that, and I did that on another place. Case studies, descriptive stuff, not limited theoretical contribution, limited theoretical contribution, or may offer some practical implications. About 30 years ago, you could publish more or less everything, anything. Short articles, 6 to 10 pages, shorter reference pages, leading countries, US, UK, Australia, and Hong Kong, articles by fewer authors, single and 2 authors mostly. Very few journals were included in the SSCI. Annals was probably the first one that was included, and Jafar was the only editor I know who's invited to SSCI. He didn't have to sweat like we do to get in. He got a letter and said, as from now, your journal is in. Current, there's a lot of pressure on authors, there's pressure on editors, article-based publications, and open access publications. And Fevzi says a good editor does never sleep.
Yeah.
Those of you who are on my Facebook, you probably have seen this picture in Cairns in Australia, editing at 6 o'clock in the morning, because okay, jet lag and all the rest of it. But that was my office, and I enjoy every morning spending an hour doing the journal on the balcony. You had a similar...
I did that this morning from 3 to breakfast time.
Yeah.
Rejecting papers.
Rejecting papers, yes. We're getting to a situation now that we like some rejections. I'll come to that. More empirical articles, positive research and tradition with a lot of PhD programs, especially from the US, China, and Korea, and Spain for some reason. Quantitative, numbers, yeah? I don't know why Spain is like that as well. Advanced, Portugal, I've seen the spectrum of Portugal, but Spain is almost all quantitative.
Because 90% of the Spanish professors are economists.
Okay, that may be an answer. Advanced statistical methods in terms of PhD programs. Contribution to the field, but practical implications are a little bit lacking. We start losing the practical implications, and we are more focused on the methods, and we are more focused on quantitative things. More hospitality and tourism journals are now included on the SSCI. I think we are now 22, if anybody knows the exact number, out of the 350 journals.
70.
Total journals?
370.
370. Longer articles. Journals started publishing more issues and more pages. And you can see some of the journals now are that thick when they come out. Longer reference pages, and there's an Asian wave. There's a lot of Chinese, Korean, a lot of Asian kind of scholars are coming into English, and they are publishing into English, because quite often they were publishing on Tourism Tribune in Chinese and several Chinese journals as well. Most of the stuff that we're talking about is English-speaking journals, because there are other journals in different languages. Very few submissions with mixed methods, very few qualitative research articles. Convenient sampling, I asked my students, and this is what they told me. You see that quite a lot. Use of Amazon, Mechanical Turk, and similar platforms, and sophisticated methodologies, but limited or no originality. We'll see that again, the no originality, right? Mostly replication studies, me too. I've done that here, and I've done it again there. Sustainable tourism, a lot of the sustainable tourism is like that. You know, you've done Costa Rica, then you've done Brazil, then you've done Portugal, then you've gone to different places. Dominance of cross-sectional surveys, a lot of self-reported measures, and authorship. It's common to see 3 or more authors. Especially if you see any of the papers coming out of Hong Kong Polytechnic University, you'll see it's like a train, 5 or 6 names. And there's a reason for that. The assistant professors, to get promoted to associate professors, they need to have 15 papers in 5 years. So what they do is they work in teams, and they operate in those kind of ways. It depends on the system. People adjust to their realities. Future. The role of the universities and our programs will be questioned more, and the public will actually say, why is my tax funding you to do this? Why are you having fun doing things that you are interested in? The value and impact of academic research will be questioned, and we need to reconnect again with industry. And we need to keep your counselor to stay with us for the day. Not come and say polite words and disappear. Okay? Because this is happening everywhere. The minister comes along, opens the conference and goes. He's not really interested in the conference. He's only interested in taking pictures or, with the important people, right? Higher research expectations from junior scholars. So who is a junior scholar? Who is finishing PhD? Who is a student? Okay. I feel for you it will be tough. Okay. So the faster you learn the game and the better you play the game, the better it is. The only benefit you've got is that now you've got people like us that we go around and we are telling what is the game. When we started, very few people knew the game. We are just discovering together. And higher external funding expectations and a lot of expectations. Research team and clusters, increasingly it works to work together in teams and clusters, and you'll see some of the stuff I'm doing and how much it has benefited my work. Because it's one thing that you work alone, but if you work in a cluster and you work with the right people, you can do amazing more. A lot of multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary research coming into there. Asian wave will continue, and gradually we're trying to get Asian colleagues to integrate with us, and we integrate with them. There's more research ethics and plagiarism. Someone was telling me 25% of the papers that are submitted are plagiarized. I don't know if you find that. When we are taking things through Turnitin and various software, we start looking into some really issues, ethical issues, that we need to talk to. Article downloads and citations, I'll spend a lot of time later on talking about this, and how to understand what you have to do and how to operate with that. Measuring actual behavior, understanding big data and the impact of technology, all of those things will change publishing. You'll see the battles that a lot of the University of California just canceled Elsevier subscriptions because Elsevier was asking them for more money and for more money and for money. So the publishers are having a big issue right now in terms of how their business models, and a lot of the governments, especially Scandinavian governments, are looking to what's happening with the publishers because there are issues with that. The evolution of the intellectual freedom. You can see what's happening. I don't need to read. Research in peace. But gradually, in the beginning, your professor tells you what to research, how often to research, how many papers to do. When you become the professor, you tell others, and eventually you die. Some hot issues in terms of research, information technology, social media, and artificial intelligence. Of course, that's, you can see who has written this. Sharing economy, experience marketing co-creation, relationship marketing management, green practices, corporate social responsibility, consumer satisfaction and loyalty, and employee satisfaction and loyalty. We've already heard some of these keywords on the things that you're doing, and I'm glad that we'll be doing them. Revenue and performance management, give me the money, competitive advantage and strategy, turnover, engagement, and talent management, that's HR, work-life balance and well-being, generation Y and Z, knowledge management, innovation, leadership, safety, and security. Those are some of the key issues that researchers are doing. And when you look into tourism, it's more about sharing economy, technology, digital, artificial intelligence, innovation, sustainability, local communities and impact, and over-tourism now. A lot of people are talking about over-tourism. I hate the word over-tourism. And I'm going to battles with colleagues about over-tourism because there is not such a thing, but we'll talk about that. Safety, security, human resources. Okay, this is more or less Fevzi's presentation. And now I start doing a little bit on giving you advice on how to get published, because I know that many of you are starting publishing. The first advice that's not on the slides is come to things like that. And Antonio has done a brilliant job bringing a lot of people like us around to give you help and work with you for our journals. And you've got here, what, 5, 6 journals? Yes. That they're very dynamic journals, and we are developing. So these are the journals that you really need to be targeting because they'll be going places and they'll be taking things forward. Writing brilliant papers, refereeing, and Catherine is going to spend more time with that, dealing with referees' reports and success factors. So I'm just going to go quite quickly through that. You really need to understand what is a paper. Okay, what's a good paper and what is not a very good paper? There are a lot of papers out there for different uses, right? Why do I publish? To answer my internal questions, to satisfy my curiosity, because my boss supervisor told me to do that, because I need a job promotion, to add knowledge to the field, and to impress my mom. This is a serious thing. You see my mom playing a little bit here, but my mom still has my book on e-tourism, so as to every neighbor who passes by. I have no understanding what's in there because she doesn't speak English, but she understood my name outside, so we're fine. I think this is a really important slide, and this is more or less the questions I send to the tourism review people. When they send a paper, when it's rejected, this is the stuff that the questions that they get. They also get the same questions with their first comments from the reviewers, and I say refocus using these questions. They are not necessarily my questions. I've copied them from left, right, and center. Some of them are mine, but a lot of the editors will send you something like that. Have I really something new to say? What you are publishing, what you are producing, is that new? What is the new knowledge and contribution to theory? Why is this paper significant and to whom? Who's going to use it? Who is interested to know? Who should read this paper? What's the contribution? Does the work add enough to existing knowledge? If not, why should they spend paper producing this? Why someone will recommend this paper to his students or colleagues? Is it interest to others in the field? How does it progress existing global knowledge? Who will use this paper in their research? How will they benefit from reading this paper? If you have studied in one location or an industry, how can people benefit from other locations? And you'll see an example in a minute. How can you rectify your method? How can you justify your method? Are the results clearly articulated and understandable by non-experts? This is really, really important because a lot of people are writing things that only themselves and another 5 or 6 people can read. And we had a conversation with Jafar yesterday, the expert syndrome. You know, I know my stuff and that's how it needs to be written. No, and Jafar was telling me yesterday that I'm editing for my readers, not for my authors. And what will be the impact of the paper to academic research and industry? This is the research onion by Saunders, which is a very nice framework to actually look into research and what kind of research you do. You start from philosophy, then you go to theory development, then you go to methodology choice, then you go to strategies, then you go to time horizons and techniques and procedures. This is called the research onion, and it's a very nice way to actually position yourself and be clear when you write your methodology on what you've actually done and why you've done it, and the justification of what you've actually done. Context and relevance. This is really my petty hate, and most of the articles that they are desk rejected in tourism review are because of this. You should avoid focusing only in one specific location. Tourism review is an international journal. Therefore, articles should be equally interesting to readers in Romiri, San Francisco, Sao Paulo, Aveiro, Accra, Xilocastro, Jyväskylä, Edinburgh, Yamoussoukro, Adana, Yogyakarta, Chengdu, or Brisbane. Keep that in mind for when you see that again. The same applies to one sector of tourism industry alone. What can we learn from transportation, destinations, hospitality, attractions that can be generalizable? And I had a conversation with Sophie this morning about hospitals. Where is Sophie? Sophie's here? Hello?
Sophia.
Sophia. Yeah. We're talking about how you can take hospitality practices and take them to hospitals. It's exactly that. How can you develop, how can your paper contribute to theory and help organizations in multiple locations to benefit out of this? Okay, this is a research that could have been submitted to Tourism Review. Cultural and religious tourism in Romiri, Greece. Authentic experience and heritage contributions towards emotional reconnections with a historic element. It's a fake. It's a fake paper. I created that last night. But this is the kind of stuff that you get quite often. This is Romiri. This is my mother's village. So what happened is that this is a village that was really left alone in the south of Greece in the 1970s. People moved away because it was far on the mountain, they didn't have any infrastructure. This is where my mom was born. Okay, this is her house. And there were two churches in Romiri. The Church of Agios Nikolaos, St. Nicholas, and Agia Triada, which is the Holy Trinity. So what happened about 5 years ago? All the villagers got together and said, come on, you know, we are now, have gone to Athens, to other places, we've got money, can we do something for our village? So they went in and they fixed that little church, Holy Trinity, and they fixed Agios Nikolaos, St. Nicholas. Ever since, a lot of people are going back there to see those churches because they're very old and there is a historical element to it and there is a sentimental element to it. So this is my mom going to St. Trinity. And this is my mom worried about St. Nicholas and what's going to happen with these candles if they light them because fires and stuff like that. So, we are talking about a tiny place here. Those of you who understand the geography of Greece, this is Kalamata, and this is Costa Navarino, the big development. If you don't understand the geography of Greece, this is Athens. This is here on the Peloponnese. And we're talking about there. Is this research relevant to anybody else? Very important to my mom. To nobody else. I made the point, right? The village of my mother, Romiri. You live in London. Where should I publish? This then becomes a little bit complicated. 370 tourism and hospitality journals, how to choose. There are a lot of different strategies how to choose. The topic is peer-reviewed, most appropriate readership, prestige, length of time from submission to publication. There are journals that they'll keep your paper for a couple of years. Highest impact, the journal impact factors. These are some of the things that you like to look at. 11 SSCI ranked hospitality and tourism journals in 2017. And those are the top hospitality and tourism journals by Google Scholar 2018. In terms of H index and H5. So, we know the top journals because they're in all lists. If you're looking for tourism review, it's not there, it's going to get there, okay? So, it became an SSCI journal in 2018. It's going to have a first impact factor in 2019. Is yours there?
Next page.
Next page.
Yeah. Number 14.
14.
Number 14. Okay, so those are the journals that they are top in the Google Scholar. Quick reference cards for research impact metrics. So what happens is that there are a lot of these impact metrics to choose which journal you may like to use. And each of those, I think this is coming from Elsevier if I'm not wrong, each of those will give you some ideas which are the better journals to publish for each thing. And this is what's called the SIMAGO journals, which is ranking the journals on Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 according to their impact factors. The impact factor is how many people are reading and citing the journal in a period of time just after publication. Okay. So how is it calculated? You get the impact factor on 2010 by looking to how many papers you are publishing in 2010 versus the journals, the citations from 2008 and 2009. You don't need to understand the mechanics, but at least you kind of have some ideas. And that's a numerical way of doing it. So cities in 2014 published in 2013 58 papers, in 2000, no, sorry. Which journal is this? No, any journal in 2013 had 58 citations and 123 in 2012. So the older the year, the more citations, because the article has been around for a while, right? So this is newer articles. At the same time, that journal has published 40 papers, and you can see how they calculate the numbers. Okay? So when you hear a number, you understand how the number has been produced. Now, this is some tourism journals, so you can understand what's happening, because there's one thing about what is the impact factor of a journal now, but also what's the trajectory of the journal? Where is the journal going to be? You know, Tourism Review was not featuring many of these things. In the last 2 years, it has been going really on a very high trajectory. Although it's the oldest journal in tourism since 1946. Catherine's journal started in 2016, 17?
No, earlier, 2014.
2014. So in 5 years, it has reached those statements, partly because it's associated with tourist management, partly because it's Elsevier at the back, and partly because Catherine's doing a brilliant job. All of those things together. Okay, but if it was not Elsevier, if it was not associated with tourist management, and tourist management every time it rejects something says, would you like to publish in tourist management perspectives? So they're feeding papers immediately to Catherine's process. Now, Fevzi has got a new journal, which I don't remember what it's called. The Insights. Which again, they're doing the same thing. So the publisher says, okay, if I'm tourist management, I think it's publishing only 7% of the journals, of the papers that they get. So they say, okay, 93% of the papers will end up somewhere in another journal. So they've created the other journals to publish those things. And again, you can see what happens on those journals and how their impact factor is changing. And you can see which are changing faster and which are changing slower.
I should clarify though. A lot of people think that a lot of our articles are from tourism management, but actually we get about 700 submissions a year, and only 10% come from tourism management. And even those 10% sometimes gets desk rejected.
Okay.
So actually, yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right. So what editors look when you are sending something in? Is it new? Is it significant? Is that an original idea? Is it authentic? I think that's the most important thing. The quality of the research, the sample, the methods, the results. Does it fit the journal? If it's information technology and tourism, okay, we can publish it, but if it goes to field, it has got much better, much better opportunities to be published on JIT, because it's a different journal and it's focusing on this thing. Is it generalizable? Has it got a wide interest? Are there enough readers? Who will sign? How many citations and how soon? Is it well written in English? Does it have a good structure? I mean, these are basic stuff, but you'll be surprised. How can I write a good paper? Innovative topics, generalizable results, engage the reader to read, clear aims of the study. First thing I read is, what is the aim of the study and has it accomplished? Comprehensive literature review, identification of gaps, solid methodology, complete justified methods, clear and concise results, discuss significance and implications of results. Does it avoid repetition? I've done this, I've done it. Logically organized and good English. These are the reviewers, and there's a group on Facebook that's called Reviewer 2. I hate Reviewer 2 or something like that.
Yeah, don't be Reviewer 2.
Yeah, don't be Reviewer 2. Because Reviewer 2 is the most difficult reviewer, right? Without data, you're just another person with an opinion. How many people are sending opinion pieces with no research methodology and not data? Really, really critical, right? Where's your data coming from? What's the refereeing process? We normally, I don't know how the other editors are doing, but we've got to have 2 or 3 reviews back. So I normally send to 5 to 6 people to get 2. Often, we are looking into the paper and say who is cited in there, who is the expert on this thing. So I had a lot of about cruise tourism and stuff like that. So I'm looking to who are the experts on this area. Editorial board members, and then you're looking on everywhere else to see who has got an understanding of what's happening. Referees are very crucial to the quality control, and they're experts. They are not always right, but they're usually right. And the important thing to remember is that referees are actually advisors to the editor. The editor is ultimately responsible for what they publish. So it's the editor's responsibility to make a decision. Sometimes we disagree with the referees, sometimes we disagree with the authors. We tend to disagree with the authors, but sometimes we disagree with the referees. One of the very critical things that you should do today is make yourself a referee. Because if you start refereeing papers, you start understanding what you're looking for. And then everything's going from there. Because you understand what is the game like and what you should be doing. So, the process, and I know many of you are doing that often, is submission. There is reject. Now, in tourism review, we desk reject almost instantly, within hours. And that's a good thing for authors, because they don't have to wait. They've got to look into another journal that may look at it. And also we are giving them some feedback. Sometimes we reject and we advise to resubmit. And we say, okay, the paper as it is, I cannot publish it. Romiri, remember? But if you focus on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, it has an interest, so we can look into it. The zoom goes back there. So when you submit something, if it's what you really hate is to see the word reject. If anything is not rejected, we're still good. Everything can be fixed. Then you've got refereeing, then you've got revisions. 90% of the papers that are coming through tourism review are major revisions on the first round. 70% are major revision on the second round. And then we start looking into, okay, can this fly on minor revisions? And then you've got acceptance. And then you've got more revisions and more revisions and more revisions until you get reject. Reject is the thing that you don't want to get, right? As long as you're in the system, you're doing good. Work with the editor, work with the reviewers and publications. I think this is a really long reviewing paper. Paper received 14 June 95. Paper accepted 8th of May 2006. It took a few years.
Real paper?
It's a real paper.
And published it 3 years later.
It's published on the linear algebra and its implications, volume 430 in 2009. Wow. I can't believe I actually wrote this. It's amazing. I just may have a bright future as a writer. What makes a good review? I think Catherine is going to talk about that, so I'm not going to spend any time. But being insightful, provide evidence, be helpful, trying to help, and ensure that the paper is making a contribution. What the author sees and what the editor sees is two different things. So you really need to be very, very careful on what they say and what rankings they say. A reject in present form means that it can be accepted in a future form. Okay, it gives you a chance. It doesn't say reject, goodbye, have a good life. It says come back. Yeah?
Come later.
Excellent, reliable data, serious flaws, suffering. So you look at these things. How to respond to reviews? Read the things, take a big, deep breath before you report. I've seen 3 emails so far in Tourism Review that people came back and say, how the hell does the reviewer think about this thing? And that's a really complicated thing. Okay. Double whiskey helps, in my case. Go for a long swim helps. Revise paper and prepare response document. This is really, really important, the response document. Address all comments regardless of how aggressive or ignorant they are, and always view that as a chance to improve. Double whiskey. The students theory, right? It does. What are the possible decisions? Accept. If anybody thinks they'll get an accept from the beginning, they either paid for their publication or they're totally naive. Normally you get the major changes, major changes, major changes, minor changes, accept. Okay. What you don't want is reject. If you don't get reject, you're doing fine. Okay. The editor will make the final decision based on the referee's report and their opinion. They look into everything, use track review to show what you've changed, and respond fully to each reviewer's comments. And I love that. This is a recent response to referees. Levent was this reviewer. You were the reviewer number 4. You know the paper. Because the paper was political and was sensitive and was very, very interesting. But for some reason I felt that this was a really good paper to review. And I sent it to 5 different reviewers. Metin was one of them, he didn't review it. Okay. And Levent was reviewer number 4. And the paper went through 2 times and was eventually accepted. It's going to come out. But this is the kind of stuff, this is what the reviewers are saying, and this is what the author is saying. Point by point, point by point. Sometimes they agree, sometimes they disagree. Okay, provided that it's polite, not always, it's not always polite, but provided that it's helpful, that's a very good process for both. Because I think the paper that was accepted was much better than the original original thing. I've got exactly the same situation now with another paper I'm about to read today.
What happened to the paper?
Huh?
What happened to the paper?
This paper has been accepted.
Accepted.
Yeah. There's another paper that Metin has reviewed, which he has recommended reject, and this is something I need to do today. And I've got 4, and again, the more complicated the paper, the more reviewers I get. But you see what's happening here in terms of, this is what I really like to see. I mean, 10 pages of comments back. I know of people who have written 26,000 words as a reply to papers. It's getting, and especially on a good journal, it goes to that kind of level. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on monitoring articles and what you get afterwards, because this is really critical, especially in the beginning of your career. And I'll show you my personal kind of thing on how do I do it, because nobody will tell you really what to do. Elsevier has got a little bit of information on their website, but I think I'm doing it fairly well, and you'll see probably why. But you'll see what I do. So this is what Elsevier says: get noticed. All right? Maximize the article's visibility, promote your article, monitor your article. So you can understand who is doing what, and you can understand who is citing your article. And these are some very interesting links that Elsevier is providing for you to have a look. And that's the web address. And tells you what to do to make your paper noticed once it's been accepted, right? I'll tell you what I do very quickly. First of all, this is my website, and all the papers are going up there. Everything I publish, it goes on my website. And everything goes with a link. Because the easier that I've got my authors to find my paper, the better it is. So Buhalis.com has got a lot of stuff that you can look at. This is from last night. I don't know, well, I woke up at 3 o'clock and I couldn't fall asleep, so I had to do something. So this is yesterday. We got a paper accepted in Annals of Tourism Research about the wisdom of the employees. So what is the reviewing of employees about companies? So this is, I haven't done this properly yet. I'm going to do it next week. But it just came out, and one of the co-authors, one of the colleagues, have done that. So I used that immediately to go out. So it went to my Twitter account. On my Twitter account, I've got 5.6 thousand followers. And there are about 36,000 tweets. So things are going out very quickly, and people like it. You can see that yesterday, in 24 hours, I had 2,500 impressions on my Twitter. So people were following what I was doing. Okay. They may be interested in this and they retweet, or they may not. So if you go on my Twitter account, you can see what has happened with these articles, how many people have actually liked and things like that. Then went to my Facebook straight away with a link to the article. Then went to my, now, Facebook, another 5,000 people, right? Then went to my LinkedIn, where again, harnessing the wisdom. Here is the special issue on Tourism Review. All of those things are coming out on my media. And again, 15,000 people on LinkedIn. So what happens is that people are seeing what I do, because it goes out there. This is about Tourism Review for the last 3 years. And this is SSCI, this world of Clarivate. So it has 2006 citations on 109 papers published. So it gets about 1.89 citations per article so far. And I'm monitoring that constantly to see what's happening, who is monitoring this. When you look in tourism researchers on Google Scholar, you see that these are the top 10 people on Tourism Scholar in terms of citations. Michael Hall has got 52,000 citations. Okay, so he's on the top, big time. This is hospitality, the top 10 hospitality people. I really want you to look at Rob Law. Because Rob is my friend, my brother, Chinese brother. We work together, and you can see some of this effects that's happening. This is my Google Scholar map, and you can see the citations, but more importantly, it's the H index, which is 76. That means that 76 papers have got more than 76 citations. And what's really interesting is the I-10 index, which has got 304. That means that more than 304 papers have been cited by more than 10 people. So that shows you immediately how productive someone is and how much their research is being cited. And the other thing that you see is the papers that have been cited many, many times. Why they've been cited many, many times? Look at the titles. Marketing the competitive destination of the future. Everybody would like to cite this paper. Because it's generic enough, it applies to everybody. Progress in information technology and tourism management 20 years later. Everybody likes it. And you'll see these papers again in a minute. This is the book, E-Tourism, Strategic Use of Information Technology in tourism industry. The future of e-tourism intermediaries. Introduction to altruism. Social media in tourism and hospitality. So picking up the right title is absolutely critical. It's really an art to pick up the right title and make sure that the title is relevant to a lot of people. So this is based on Scopus. And again, you can see how many people view the publications and how many people cite the publications per year on Scopus. And this is in Scopus again, and you can see the graphs. And this on the Web of Science, again, it's how many people are doing it. And you can see what's happening. The more you are cited, the more you're cited because more people are finding you and they're using it. Now, when you start looking into each of the papers and when they are cited and how many citations they take per year, again, it's really critical to understand which titles are getting cited, because that will inform your next publications, inform your next titles, because those will be the titles that they'll be cited. I'm going to skip that because I'm running out of time. So, how to get noticed? Brilliant research in terms of concept. Look at the big picture, forest versus the tree. Look far away, what people will be researching in 5 years' time. This is really critical. Because you write a paper that's going to see the light in 3 years' time and will be discovered in 5 years' time. So you really need to be looking 5 years' time. What people will be looking to 5 years' time ahead. Keep paper and title focused. Speak to many people. Once you publish the paper, publicize the publication. And be relevant and have impact. I'll conclude by saying that once we get it going, it works. The critical bit is to get it going and understand how all of these things are working together. And that's a strategic thing. And, you know, your mentors will be able to help you with that because they've all done it. Focus on the impact. Why do I do things? What's kind of the impact it's going to have out there? This is probably one of the most useful slides I've got. And Lena was saying yesterday, you've got 7 papers or 8 papers? Okay. It's exactly that. It's how can you get the first cup, the second cup, the third cup, and start working towards a portfolio of cups. Because this will be rejected. Yeah? This will be bring the next one. The future research that was said there is published there. And it's that kind of circle. You always have got to have 5 or 6 papers on a go. Yeah? And work with the right people to have 5 or 6 papers in 2 or 3 themes. The other critical things, what is your theme? You know, when I see Catherine, I'm thinking gender, women, Although she's done a lot of other stuff, but that's the thing I'm thinking when I'm thinking. When people are thinking about tourism and technology, they're thinking about Buhalis, Fevzi, and if they're technical, they're thinking Hannes Werner, they're thinking Philip, they're thinking Mariana, they're thinking Yuli. You know, 5 or 6 people. And they'll be the first ones that they're going to look at. So what are you known about and how you can fill your gaps? So some personal stuff, dive deep and dive in and go deep. Quite often the most difficult thing is the beginning because you don't know how to dive. Once you do, it's better. Empower locals and have a great impact. This is from Australia recently. What do you do with the guys? Love what you do. Love what you do. Otherwise, don't do it. And have fun. I love who I've been, but I really love who I'm becoming. Some references. I talked about Bob. Bob has done a lot of things about these things. You can see some of the stuff that has been used for this. And keep in touch with me and Fevzi and everybody else. Thank you. Recorded. Hello.